Hello and welcome back to What the Frick podcast. I have been so busy lately. I wanted to update you guys on what I've been doing. It's been a crazy last couple of weeks. If you are listening to this, whether you're in your car or in your AirPods, there are going to be a lot of video clips going over this just to kind of give you guys a visual of what I did. It'd be kind of like a mini, almost like vlog podcast. So if you want to just listen, go on, keep listening. But I do encourage you to watch this video either on YouTube or Spotify, where you can actually see the things I'm discussing as I tell them to you about it. So anyways, about a week before the 4th of July, I was contracted out because, as we all know, I am a photographer and videographer, and I was invited to the Gymnastics Olympic trials out in Minneapolis, Minnesota. I officially got the gig a couple of months ago, but it finally came to fruition and I went. So I'm just going to kind of walk you guys through what I did because it was just honestly so incredible. So I flew there on a Monday and pretty far from Phoenix. So I got there and just kind of met up with my team. I was given a prepaid sort of like debit card for meals and food and kind of just did my thing. One of the things that I did notice about Minneapolis, and I had never been there, so I was excited to get there and get going. It seemed a little, I don't want to say sketchy because I felt okay. For example, I tried to go to Chipotle at like 6 p.m. There were like 3 within a block of me and they were all closed. It was a Monday night. I thought that was weird. And so I was like, okay, I'll go to Qdoba. That was also closed. And I finally found one that was like a couple blocks down from my hotel. So I walked there, got it. And it just, like, the streets just seemed kind of empty. There were still a lot of shops and places boarded up. And I think this is just aftermath of the riots from 2020. So I don't know. I was surprised to see that a city as big as Minneapolis still had not what I would say fully recovered. But overall, I mean, it was cool to be in a new city and walk around. But every day was kind of a challenge of like trying to get food before all these places closed. I didn't have like a kitchen. I wasn't cooking. So I did a lot of Uber Eatsing throughout my time there. So the next day was my first official day working, and I was doing both the men and women's team. So we started with the men's team, and they had their podium training, which is pretty much just like one big practice session for like 2.5, 3 hours. So I went there, and it was our job every day to kind of get both photos and videos, and we would sort of edit them, put little watermarks on the photos, making sure that they were all Team USA branded. I would send them to my respective leader who was in charge of the social media, and he'd post them. So every day we would have a little bit of a meeting to just kind of go over like what's needed for today, like what are the absolute must people we need to capture, and we need warm-up photos, we need photos of guys smiling, guys flipping, videos and such. So always a little bit of a breakdown every day before going. And it was nice too because our hotel was pretty much across the street, maybe like 2 blocks down from Target Center where the Milwaukee Bucks play. So that's where the entire thing took place. And I guess one cool thing about Minnesota is that every building is connected by bridges, which I was like, wait, what's going on here? But it gets so cold there that people don't want to walk outside during the winter. So people just walk through the buildings to get like through the city, which is kind of interesting. So we kind of discovered that and we started walking through the building bridges every day. Day 2 was probably one of our most hectic because we had women's practice training in the morning, and then once they were done, the men came in, and then we had another women's practice in the afternoon. So we were probably there at like 8 a.m. for women's, and then it was like the men came right in after, and then the women came right back. So I was there a very long time that day, and some of the things we were tasked to do was create a men type video to, post before the actual competition began. So that was actually the other guy's job. There was 2 of us there, me and one other guy, and then our like social media leader. So he was in charge of creating the men's hype video, and I was in charge of the women's hype video, which I was super excited about, but also I'm like, this is kind of a big deal. Like, women's gymnastics is kind of a big deal for Team USA with the people on the team specifically. So I was like, no pressure. But I had like an extra day and so much time with the practices that we went to get good content. So I felt pretty cool about it. We did go out to dinner once as like the 3 of us and then like another social media person that was there. That was the only dinner I really had out the whole time. I didn't really want to be going out by myself. Like I said, I didn't necessarily feel like it was like the safest city for me to be walking around in. I mean, I live in Scottsdale, so I'm pretty used to just doing that here. But with just the amount of things boarded up and people were just sort of kind of like lingering around streets, I only felt safe kind of going out when I was with a group of people. So we did that one night, which was fun. And then there was another night where we went to Whole Foods and just kind of got like stuff from there because I was feeling very unhealthy when you're not working out. You're just kind of like working 24/7 and kind of just eating whatever's available. So that was kind of a nice night, being able to go out and like actually put something decent into my body. And then the following day was the first day of the men's competition. So it's kind of like the pre-finals, I guess you could say. And this was really cool. I was happy that the men went first because their stuff is just so different. So the thing I kind of noticed about this was that, as sad as it is, like the men's team is just not as, I don't know the word for it, but like people care more about the women's gymnastics, and you could see this with the amount of people that just showed up every day. Like it was completely sold out during the women's performances versus the men's was still very packed and full. But even just like the social analytics, like the women were just doing better. So I personally enjoyed, both so much. The men, watching them compete, like the stuff they do is so hard, and there's 6 different rotations versus just 4 for women. So just seeing these men do these crazy things and how strong they are, like I was so impressed, and just like running around like crazy trying to get everything done. Before the competition, we would have a meeting and kind of go over top people that we had to get. And if there's a certain person who did really well on a certain event, it was like, make sure someone is there getting them, because they would run like 2 apparatuses at once for the men just to like save time, because there are 6 different rotations that happen. And so it was just sort of like looking at my phone every other minute, being like, okay, who's up next? And like, well, where on the floor do I have to go? And like the floor is not that big per se. Like you can run from vault to bars pretty quickly, but there are cameras and athletes everywhere. And we were lucky enough to be able to actually be on the floor. And when I mean on the floor, I don't mean like the floor where the gymnasts are tumbling. I mean like the floor as in we're able to be like right next to them when they're like taking their warm-up clothes off and they're putting chalk on, whereas a lot of the other media was limited to specific spots around the arena. I think there were like 4 or 5 different spots, and you were not allowed to move from there, and you couldn't move until the rotation was over. Whereas I could just freely move about. So if there was one guy on pommel horse and another guy about to do vault, I could quickly just like run over and do the other one as soon as that ended. So it was a lot of walking and running around and just organization, but being able to be on the floor like so close to these athletes and their coaches was such a privilege. And I tried really hard to not get in their way and make sure that if they were walking towards me, like I'd scoot over, making sure I'm paying attention so I don't accidentally, like, God forbid, like step on someone stretching or something. But there's only like a limited number of us that were allowed on the floor like that. And it was me, the other guy, someone that was with USA Gymnastics, and then just like the NBC people who were like there doing like the coverage, but since they showcase the Olympics. So after the day 1 of the men's event, we had to be tasked again with creating, I like forget why I did this, but we had to, I remember now. So we had to make a video for who would ever qualify. So whoever is in first place after day 2 just automatically makes the Olympic team. And we were pretty sure it was between 2 guys, Fred and Brody. So between the 2 of us, like one of us took Fred, one of us took Brody, and we each made a hype video for him. And whoever ended up qualifying got their video put out. So I made Frederick's, and he was the one that ended up making it. So my video was posted saying like, hey, this is our, person that got the number 1 spot in scoring, and he is automatically going to make the team. I think he also had to rank highly in 3 or 4 other apparatuses. I forget exactly, so don't quote me on that, but he did. So he was just an automatic qualifier, and the video I made for him was really fun. He had a really cool personality, so that was cool that got to be promoted. And then, of course, the next day was the women's first day of competition. So the video I made for them, just showcasing all of their practice footage, got to be posted right before the competition started. And it was almost more chill with the women which I thought would be the opposite, because like I said before, they're kind of a more sought after, I guess, team in most people's eyes. Like there's just more coverage for them. But it was easier because they were really just running one apparatus at a time. So if Suni was on bars and Jordan was on floor, like they wouldn't start one until the other had finished, which gave us time to both go from one to the other and like fully get pretty much everyone's routines. And it obviously was very sad. For those who don't know, like 3 athletes did get hurt. I believe 2 of them, or was it all 3? I forget. Many Achilles injuries, and like a lot of these women were obviously very close to making the team, and there were talks that they probably would have had a good chance of making the team had they not been hurt and removed from the competition. So that was really sad, and I think maybe added to the reason why they were going one at a time for each apparatus, because they just had more time to fill in the broadcast. So yeah, that was really sad. And I did get this clip and photo of Sky Blakely. She got hurt during just practice, and then the other 2, I think they got hurt during the actual competition. But seeing her just crying when the crowd was like giving her a standing ovation was just so emotional. And I kept saying like, I'm probably gonna cry a couple of times during this whole experience, because I just love gymnastics so much, and I can really like relate to what these athletes went through. I didn't compete on an Olympic level or do gymnastics, but I grew up as a competitive cheerleader, and just similar things and thoughts that they have gone through, I've experienced. So just seeing it all unfold in front of me was really, really fantastic and, heartwarming, and just kind of made me emotional. So like I said, we made a men's video for them and with their qualifier, and so we had to do the same thing for the women's. It was kind of just a known fact that Simone Biles would be the person who qualified in first place to just automatically get put on the team. So we made a video for her, and that was also given to me. So again, I was like, I am being given a lot of high pressure tasks, which I was really thankful and grateful that, I was given that opportunity and being seen as someone that could handle this kind of pressure with a video that's surrounded by Simone Biles qualifying for the Olympic team. So I knew it had to be cool, but not, nothing too crazy effect wise, but still just like showing off her and what she's doing. So I made that for her, and that got to go out as soon as she ended up qualifying, which obviously she made it. So no spoilers here. But the next 2 days were pretty fun, just going back and forth between the last day of the men's competition and the women's competition. Seeing the men qualify was really interesting. I know one of the people that ended up qualifying, Steven something, his last name is kind of a long one, I don't want to butcher it, but he's like a specialty performer on pommel horse, and so like one of the reasons he made the team was because of how good he is on this event. And it was just so interesting to learn like the intricacies of how the people decide like who makes the team, because it's not always just based on like 1 through 5 of the score. A lot of it's just based on other factors and what they need and what they think is gonna get Team USA to have the highest score. So I was learning a lot about that and found it just very interesting. But the guys had such fun reactions. Like when they would finish their routine and stick it and land, they would go crazy. Like some of their reactions were just like screaming and fist pumping and yelling. And I loved that. I loved just like all the fun things they would do. So I have a lot of good ones of Asher, who made the team, Shane, who's an alternate, some other guys too that didn't end up making it. But they are just so fun, and you don't see the women really do that as much. So I really enjoyed that aspect with the men's team. And then, of course, when they announced, who made it, it was really cool to see just how emotional they were. And the fact that they find out backstage before they actually announce it is kind of, it'd be cool to see them do it live, but also like it gives the athletes a moment to like collect themselves, and whether they were picked or not, just like have that moment. And then once they're announced, they run onto the stage and with their flowers and their white uniforms, and like some of them are crying, some of them are just, waving and happy. And then you get to have that photo of them all like together, and the confetti and the whatever it's called goes off, and it's just so fun. So going from the men's day into the women's day, I was just so excited, and I was exhausted. Like I said, I was working like 12 hours every single day, and then I would come home, eat dinner at like 11, and then just be editing like videos and things that we needed to go out on social either that night or the following morning. So it was really go, go, go. But I'm thankful I was paid to even have this opportunity. Like I was paid for the flight, my hotel, I was given a food voucher card, and I was paid. It's like, I probably would have done this for free just because of how cool it was, but it's cool that I have a job where I'm paid for this as well. So lastly, just the Women's Day was so incredible. Suni Lee's bar routine, amazing. For those that don't know, she fell during warm-ups, and it was kind of a big deal because she is known for her bar routine. And then during the actual competition, she did it perfectly, landed perfectly, and she actually had a moment where she like kind of goes crazy like the guys do, and like really showed emotion. And I have an amazing video clip of that. It's gotten around like 50,000 views on my Instagram page, and of course Team USA also posted it, which did a lot better there. But it was just cool to see something like that go viral, at least for me. And then obviously seeing Simone perform is it's a crazy experience. I say that I've done a lot of cool things in my life. I've been to a Super Bowl, a World Series, Pro Bowl, an NFL Combine. Like I've been in the field house with players when they're like throwing champagne, and so like I've done a lot of stuff, and for me at least, this is my top. It's not the actual Olympics, but it's almost better. So that may not be how everyone would rank those things, but like I said, I grew up trying gymnastics and then eventually going into competitive cheerleading. But I've always loved it, and I've always followed, gymnastics for Team USA when they're at the Olympics. So this was just such a cool opportunity for me. Going into the women's finals, like I said, seeing Simone do these things, it's crazy too, because she did her famous vault where she does like a double pike, and she took a couple of steps, which, isn't what she wants. But even with taking a couple of steps, she did fall off of the beam. She still was number one and had multiple points higher than second, third, and fourth place, which I just thought was crazy. It's like this woman can fall, not be perfect, and she's still going to take number one. A couple of the other girls also did fall off the beam, which obviously hurts the score. But the fact that they can just like get right back up and keep going and just have that focus is so, so crazy. I think my favorite part with the women's finals was just all the floor routines. There were a lot of standing ovations. Simone specifically, when she came off, I kind of found a fun spot to stand where they come off the floor down the stairs, and she just kind of sits down and is catching her breath, and she's just like looking around at all the people cheering for her, and her teammates are coming up to her, and like it was so beautiful. Jocelyn, who is an alternate, she starts crying as soon as her floor routine ends, which made me cry a little bit, and that's really fun video clip I have. Jordan Childs also got a standing ovation, and I had this fun video of Jocelyn and Simone cheering her on I was like double filming. I had my phone in one hand and my camera in this hand, like trying to film both, which was hard. But I knew that they wanted, more fun moments like that. So I got that. But it was just so fun. Floor is my favorite apparatus for women. It's just so artistic, and the music and everything. And it was so loud in there. Like a lot of times for NFL games and baseball games, I have to wear little like earpieces, earplugs, just because it gets so loud. I don't want to be deaf one day from being at all these sporting events, but I didn't wear one here, and I was kind of happy about it because I could really hear how loud it was and just how exciting it was in there. And it felt so electric, and it's a moment I'll never forget. When they announced the team for the women, obviously we knew Simone pre-qualified because she was the top spot. And then it was kind of a big toss-up because, like I said, 3 athletes got hurt during the first day of competition and practice. And so no one really kind of knew what was going to happen. Although it was rumored that, the past 4 Olympians would be coming back, but that final 5th spot was kind of a toss-up. So when they ended up announcing 16-year-old Hesley as one of the girls, like the crowd just erupted. Her dad has a really great reaction that they showed on TV. And it was just so fun. And they brought the men back out, and the streamers went everywhere. And it was just so fun to see and capture. And then after all the madness kind of died down, we got to go on the floor and take pictures with the streamers and just kind of get content for ourselves, which was really cool. So it was such an incredible experience, and I'm so happy I got to go and be a part of it. And I have so much content. That's kind of why I wanted to make a podcast vlog about it, just to kind of show off the content I got, because I'm still posting about it now, and the Olympics are coming up so soon. So I knew I had to get this out there, but I've just been so busy, like I said. But I'm like, this is important. I need to tell everyone about it because it was just such an incredible experience. And people asked me how I got this job, and funny enough, I can't remember if it was LinkedIn or something else, but I saw like a Google Doc forum posted by the guy that was in charge of us, like running social media, saying they needed freelance help for Olympic trials, because it wasn't just gymnastics going on. There was like swimming and diving and track and field and all of this stuff. So they needed help with content capturing. So they hired out a bunch of people to like go to different places and do this, because a lot of it was happening, crossover time. So I ended up filling out the form saying I was available for a lot of the different ones. And then he was like, yeah, we'd love to have you. And then like, what's your top sport? And I was like, I love gymnastics. I've done it. I understand it. I've filmed it before. I've done college gymnastics when I was filming them. So like, I kind of understand what they're looking for. And he was like, done, you got it. Like, more info to come soon. And I was like, what? So I did not think I would get that when I filmed the form out. I thought it was just like, whatever, this will be like a crazy shot that I even get reached back out to. So to end up getting that was just amazing for me. And I think I've realized my resume kind of speaks for itself, working all of the events I mentioned earlier and being with the NFL and the MLB. And I worked very closely with the Phoenix Suns. It's like they wanted someone who's comfortable around athletes, which I am, and just can kind of turn things very quickly. Because like I said, like I think after Suni's bar routine, like it was like, hey, we need this now. So I ran to my computer, quickly edited it for Instagram, and I was like, boom, like it was in his hands within 2 minutes of it happening. So you just need people that are able to turn things like that and kind of have an eye for it, which thankfully I do. So that was such a fun experience. If there's any more questions about it, I guess let me know. I feel like that was a very quick gist of it all, but I'm so excited for it. And Simone's Netflix doc came out today, so I was watching it and I was like, I should really make my podcast now. I think it's a 4-episode documentary and only the first 2 are out now. I'm assuming they're going to release the other ones after the Olympics. I'm sure they're following her there. But yeah, that's a quick little summary of the Olympics and just how fun it was. And I guess a couple of last things I noticed were just Like at one point I kind of felt bad for Simone because the cameras are literally like this at all times around her, which I get because she's like the star athlete there and they want stuff of her. But there was, I think, a moment she was annoyed after she fell off beam and she was just like standing the opposite way. It was like, maybe just give her a minute. Like, she's still a person, she's still an athlete. Just like let her breathe and like get back into her zone. So I would never stand too close to them, and I was, like I said, always trying to get out of their way. Just having the privilege of being that close to them and being on the floor was so nice. So I don't know, I have nothing but good things to say about that experience, and I was exhausted after, but I would do it again. Anyways, that is my little podcast update. More to come, hopefully soon. I just been so busy, and this podcast is a fun thing for me, so I don't like to stress out about it every week. But if you watched it, I'm so happy you get to see all my incredible work. And if not, go back and watch it because there's some cool shots there of all the athletes. It was just so fun. So thank you all, and I will talk to you soon.